Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Ripple could one day be, quite literally, a $1 trillion company. In fact, it's quite possible that Ripple could become the most valuable company on the entire planet. And so what got me thinking about this? Here's a tweet from my fellow XRP YouTuber, Digital Asset Investor. And this was a quote from Hodor's blog. I'm sure many of you are familiar. If not, there was a very notable blogger who has now, he's stopped blogging, but he was just he's just going under this name Hodor from Game of Thrones. And so it was Hodor's XRP blog. Very well written. I always looked forward to checking out his work. It's kind of sad that he's decided to stop doing it for his own individual reasons. But here's a quote from one of his blogs. At what XRP price point will Ripple be worth $1 trillion? XRP price equals 17 USD. Just so you're mentally and emotionally prepared for it, the price won't stop at $17. It will keep going past this artificial construct that makes people uncomfortable. So I wanted to share with you some of the specifics on this. It's really fun to think through here. And if XRP in terms of price action goes the way that many of us suspect it will, this is definitely not outside the realm of possibility, Bill. But before I dig in any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, I would certainly appreciate it. And also, if you are a fan of the idea of Ripple perhaps one day being a $1 trillion company, go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel to join the echo chamber. So here's the actual blog from Hodor. And this he published on January 23rd, 2018. He titled this one, "Are You Ready for Something Strange?" And so this is after the crypto bubble had popped. I want to say, I'd have to go back and look at a chart, and I admittedly did not before recording this video, but I want to say it was right around like January 14th or 15th. That's when things really started to get rocky for the crypto asset class just across the board. So the bubble had definitely popped at this point. Things were going down. There were some instances where, of course, it would there'd be little rallies upward, but the downward trend had started by this point. And so let me scroll down. This is a really long piece. I just want to cover some specific parts of this. Maybe it was a little bit lower. Maybe sorry, 1 second. Ripple. Yeah, actually, it was here. Okay, this is where I wanted to jump in. He had this little subheading in this piece titled "Ripple's XRP Holdings." In the early 1900s, the most valuable companies were usually corporations that manufactured tangible goods or products. They included behemoths such as U.S. Steel, Standard Oil, and International Harvester. As time went on, these names began to include technology companies. By the mid-60s, the composition changed to include IBM and AT&T, as well as Kodak. Recently, the world has seen the rise of Silicon Valley and West Coast software companies. These new entrants have now taken the top spots. I'm old enough to know that the valuations of some of these companies have been, and still are, controversial. The current top 3 companies of the world by stock market capitalization, here it is as of third quarter 2017. And again, like I said, this piece is from about 2.5 years ago, so you'll get the point, though. So at the time it was Apple at $792 billion, Alphabet, Google, $665 billion, and Microsoft, $569 billion. So you can see, obviously, what he's getting at here is the type of company at the top, the types of companies at the top of the list changed. They were born more of the digital age here. And the point that he's making, as you will see, is that you're going to kind of see a continued evolution of the types of companies at the top. Or at least one notable entrant, perhaps, which would be Ripple. Then the piece continues. Yes, these valuations are massive, and they continue to be controversial for some people. You might wonder if any company has recently been valued at over $1 trillion. The answer is yes. In November of 2007, PetroChina was valued at approximately $1.1 trillion for a period of time after its initial public offering. I'm bringing up these valuations because it's become a hotly debated topic in crypto currency at the moment, since Ripple holds approximately 60 billion XRP, the native no counterparty currency of the XRP ledger. Anybody can own XRP, but the fact is, Most of them are owned by the company that created it, roughly 60% in fact. And by the way, this is a rare mistake. Hodor did get that wrong. Ripple did not create XRP, just to be super duper clear. It was created before Ripple was a company even. It was with Jed McCaleb, David Schwartz, and Arthur Brito. They created it. And that would have been, they were really testing especially a lot in like mid-summer 2012 before the ledger was actually public, but Ripple just wasn't a company at that point in time. So a rare mistake by Hodor, but don't let that fool you. He was certainly educated himself. But anyway, so when XRP rose to over $3 per unit in early January of this year, many people, not just crypto investors, did the math and arrived at a very large number, somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 billion. This immediately raised some eyebrows. It wasn't the $200 billion valuation that bothered some, but rather it was the potential. They'd seen how fast the price of XRP rose, and this based mostly on speculation to this point, even though XRP's use case is massive, and some predict that its valuation should be measured at significant numbers eventually. They pointed out that speculation alone had the potential to power Ripple's valuation higher than even the largest Silicon Valley company, based purely on the value of its digital asset holdings. And that is indeed astonishing here. Now, consider this, though. Like, when this ultimately happens, and, by the way, to be clear, I don't have a financial background. I am not offering financial advice you should not buy or sell because of anything that I ever say or write. That would be a really bad idea. I'm just an enthusiastic member of the XRP community who enjoys talking about this stuff and making YouTube videos, just to be super duper clear. But I think that there is tremendous opportunity within the crypto asset class, specifically investing in XRP. That's my humble opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am. I'm Mr. XRP Bull here. I think that XRP could be worth substantially more. And while I'm never going to make a price prediction, numbers that are being thrown around within this blog don't seem unrealistic to me, especially given that less than 1% of the world is currently invested in cryptocurrencies. Just imagine when additional institutional and retail money flows in, what kind of effect is that going to have with the cryptocurrencies that will ultimately have staying power? You should have this asset class valued at some point in the trillions. It would be super weird to me if the crypto asset class was not eventually, and I'm not going to put a timestamp on it, if it never happened, if the crypto asset class were never in the trillions, that would be weird. I think it's perfectly reasonable to suspect also that individual cryptocurrencies could also be valued in the trillions. But when you're talking about ultimately what Ripple's XRP holdings would be worth, and I suspect this is going to happen, and I'm sure that there could be some negative publicity from people that want to shame people for having, and people and businesses for having wealth, which I'm not a fan of doing. I can imagine that articles like that will pop up. But the truth is, that's the notional value. So if you want to look at what it's actually worth, when businesses are being appraised, if you're talking about, holdings of a cryptocurrency, like they hold enough, let me tell you this for sure, even though the way people will be calculating this, it could absolutely result in Ripple, multiply what their XRP holdings time, whatever the current market rate is. So even if it's $17, okay, fine, you could say Ripple's worth that much. That's not really the most accurate way to go about this. People that do accounting and appraisals, they will tell you that they take into consideration the fact that if Ripple were to, they take this into consideration for sure, and they do actually when they come up with a valuation of Ripple, the company, they take into account the fact that if Ripple starts selling huge amounts of their XRP, they take into account how that would affect in the short term the market price for XRP, if you're talking about a bunch of XRP flooding. So as a result, the true value is actually much lower, which isn't something that Hodor mentions in this piece. It's worth noting. So don't get me wrong. Like on paper, like the way people are going to look at it, $1 trillion company, totally got it. In reality, that's not so much. Like you couldn't get $1 trillion of wealth out of the company is what I'm trying to share with you. That would not happen, is not possible. So even when people are going to be throwing that around, okay, fine. Now, still, I can see how a lot of people will want to calculate it like that. And even, no matter how you calculate it, Ripple's still going to be worth an absolute fortune. Like, I mean, the most recent valuation today was $10 billion, right? It's freaking crazy anyway. Hodor's piece continues, and check this out. This is interesting. He has a subheading, "Get ready to be uncomfortable." Before we continue with our conversation about Ripple, it's important to understand history a bit. The world has actually seen companies that are many times the size of Google or Apple. Don't believe me? Depending on how much you paid attention in history class, you may or may not be familiar with the following names. And he's got four companies on the screen here. Dutch East India Company, worth $7.9 trillion. And then you got Mississippi Company, $6.5 trillion. South Sea Company, $4.3 trillion. Saudi Aramco, $4.1 trillion. And so these valuations for these companies are adjusted for inflation. So the most valuable company ever, $7.9 trillion. How did that happen? Well, check this out. And why don't we see that today? You're about to find out. The numbers are adjusted for inflation. It's the value that these companies would have been measured in using current valuation value equivalents. These companies were granted monopolistic dispensations for certain periods of history, for better or for worse. Eventually, monopolies are typically broken into smaller companies or divisions as history progresses. And so there you go. That's the short answer. They're monopolies, right? And so they were allowed to get that big, but you're not going to see that today. Certainly not in the United States. You're not going to see monopolies are a no-no, right? But circling back to Ripple, so Ripple will be the most valuable company on planet Earth if XRP adoption continues. I predict that it will happen this year, 2018. That obviously did not happen. And so I remember reading that. I read this the day that this came out, this blog. And I disagreed with that at that time. I thought, it looks to me like the bubble has popped. I had publicly talked about that. And this is before my YouTube channel, but on the Twitters, I had talked about it. And in my blog. And I just thought it's so clear to me that the bubble's popped, and I'm long term. Even back then, I was still long term bullish for Ripple and XRP. That hasn't changed actually, but I understood at that point how market cycles worked, and I thought this isn't going to go well. People aren't going to bounce back anytime soon. So I did disagree with Hodor on that particular point, and got the benefit of hindsight now, of course, but I felt that way back then, and I ended up being correct. But anyway, Hodor then writes, the reason why is because XRapid adoption has now started in earnest, and this is the one software solution of Ripple that utilizes XRP. I've already described the reasons why XRP will be adopted by banks, financial institutions, and other companies in previous blogs, but suffice it to say that XRP is gaining traction very quickly. And also part of the reason that I didn't think that would happen in 2018, and I think it's still true in 2020, to me it's an undeniable truth of life, is that XRP is still tethered to the price action of Bitcoin. And until that changes, and look, I think it will. I see the way that people are behaving. You just had a DeFi coin that doesn't do anything, that over a span of a few days, and this happened just a couple weeks ago, I made a video about it, it increased by 10,000% in value. It went from like $31 to $3,400 or something like that. People they're still losing their ever-loving minds, guys. Like, don't expect the next parabolic move for XRP to be primarily fueled based on utility. People have not figured stuff out yet. So it doesn't mean that there won't be tremendous price action necessarily for XRP prior to that, but it's something to consider there. And so all of this incredible adoption that Ripple has occurred with XRP actually being used in commercial production, not enough individuals, institutional investors and retail investors are just acknowledging like how much the degree to which utility matters. And that's my entire investment thesis, is that utility matters and will win the day. But here you go, and it's written right there on the screen. So Ripple would be worth $1 trillion if XRP hits $17. And given that purely on speculation it already hit almost $4, it doesn't seem nuts to me. There's almost nobody in the world of crypto. If this really is going to have staying power for decades and decades and decades, this does not sound like some sort of wacky number to me. It really doesn't. People thought that Bitcoin going to $20,000. Tell somebody that 10 years ago, they think you're nuts. But look, it's a brand new asset class. But anyway, that is it for this video. Thank you for stopping by, my friends. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.